spotlight view.
Okay, we are recording. Welcome everyone to the May 3rd, 2021 Bedminster Township Committee regular meeting of the Township Committee. I recognize that we have a full attendance of Township Committee in attendance tonight. Ms. Ray, will we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News, Somerville, Bernardsville News, Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 7th, 2021.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was really, that was
Stellar performance.
that was not a,
What do you call it? Round something? Start like we wrote and then
Yeah.
beats later somebody starts.
so May 3rd, 2021, we are in May, and we are still in the COVID pandemic. As of today, the numbers for Bedminster are 421 confirmed cases of COVID-19. We remain at 5 fatalities, and we've had fatalities for a while. 421, lots, it's a big number, and as I've said in prior meetings, 421 represents those that are laboratory confirmed through the state process, does not include those who tested positive with rapid tests, and certainly doesn't count those who were asymptomatic and never got tested in the first place. So obviously we think the number is probably a greater impact here in Bedminster than the 421. Good news is the vaccines are being distributed much more widely, and folks are taking the vaccines. I know a fair amount of the Township Committee has initiated or completed their vaccination. And there was some information that came out today, I believe, from the county. We had heard from the county that there had been a lack of supply going to the county for vaccinations. And Colin has an update. Want to hit right off the bat?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. As we've been reporting since January, Somerset County was receiving an average of between 700 and 1,000 doses of vaccine each week. That has been up. The state informed the county last week that it will be receiving 7,000 doses this week, 5,000 Moderna, 2,000 J&J. We have 2 drive-through clinics in the county, RBCC, that operates from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily, and Rutgers Plaza in Somerset that runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. RBCC will administer the Moderna vaccine, and Rutgers Plaza will utilize the J&J vaccine. And just a reminder, residents can schedule appointments at the drive-through clinics by visiting covidvaccine.nj.gov.
Okay, thank you. And, the governor today announced some additional loosening of the restrictions that we're under, primarily if you're outside. The outside limit for gatherings has been raised. There's some caveats on there, which are if you cannot maintain social distancing, even if you're outside, you still need your mask. Inside requirements have also been raised, but once again, requirements for social distancing or physical barriers if social distancing cannot be maintained. I'm sure the governor will be probably have some additional loosening as we move along if the numbers continue to be in good shape. And these restrictions impact the operations of Bedminster in different ways. We'll talk about this when it comes to descriptions under subcommittee meetings. With that, let's go into public comments. So if there's any member of the public that wishes to make a statement, if you are participating by Zoom, hit *9 on your keypad, and that will identify you as willing or ready to make a statement or comment. If you are participating by Zoom and on your computer, you can go to the bottom of the screen where it says participants and then click on raise hand, and Ms. Ray will identify you and welcome you in for public comment.
I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to make comment.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on. Approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve tonight, which is April 19th, 2021 Township Committee meeting. Any comments that have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Ray? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles, we have 5 permits and raffles to consider tonight. And the first 2 are for fireworks at Trump National Golf Club. So let me first go through the first one. Fireworks permit for a fireworks display in celebration of Memorial Day scheduled for May 30th, 2021 at approximately 9:30 p.m. at Trump National Golf Club, 900 Lamington Road, Bedminster, New Jersey. And the second one is fireworks permit for a fireworks display in celebration of a wedding scheduled for June 5, 2021 at approximately 10 p.m. at Trump National Golf Club, 900 Lamington Road, Bedminster, New Jersey. And we do have a representative from Trump National to discuss the fireworks permit and to address any questions.
Evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I am Robert Todd, I'm director here at Trump National Golf Club, and I am the person responsible for the committee.
Okay. So are these fireworks out of the ordinary? Are these the same type of fireworks that we've seen in the past from the golf club?
Memorial Day celebration, and as we're getting weddings coming in, we are offering that as part of our package. So I've completed the package like I normally do, and give my copies to you, the committee, Chief Rock, and Inspector Dill for their consideration and approval. You're asking for your approval.
Great, thank you. So let's open it up to the Township Committee.
Mr. Todd, the 10 o'clock start time, have you ever started something that late before? How long do you foresee these fireworks going off? I'm just worried about it being late.
It's generally from darkness, where it's low, it will be planned during the course of the wedding ceremony. 10 o'clock will be at the later end. I have your attorney submit letters to all our neighbors who join our property within 200 feet. And they've all been notified by certified mail of who we're going to have fireworks, what time, and if there was any problems or concerns that I was first to contact.
Do you know for approximately how long the fireworks, once it starts, how long it'll go on for?
They range from between 5 minutes and 9 minutes. It's relatively quick.
Thank you.
But for the Memorial Day parade, that goes longer, correct? The Memorial Day celebration, those fireworks go longer than 5 to 8 minutes?
I think that would maybe a little bit longer, maybe 10 to 12.
Okay.
But it would not be more than 12 minutes.
Okay. Chief Rock, I'm not sure if do we have Steve Dill? But we have Chief Dreheim. So Chief Rock, if you just want to walk through the permits, do you have any questions or comments, or have your comments been addressed?
No, I do not have any. It's the usual Memorial Day fireworks show, which requires obviously law enforcement presence. And that show, we're going to have to close Copperthwaite Road starting about 1 p.m. until the show is picked off. As for the second show on June 5th, does not interfere with the roadway, so that's more interior of the golf course. But that event will also have law enforcement presence at the safety blast zone, I'll call it. So I have no issues looking over the permits, sir.
I see that we have Chief Dreheim up there. So Robin, if you could unmute Chief Dreheim and ask Chief Draheim if he has any comments or questions concerning the permit application.
No comments regarding the permit applications. We'll coordinate with the golf club and, fire official Dill closer to the events if there's any fire protections that's needed.
Okay, great. Okay, if there's any other questions or comments for Mr. Totten? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve the fireworks permits for both the Memorial Day celebration and for the June 5th wedding?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Totten.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Next permit up for tonight is for the Bedminster Township Farmers Market, or Bedminster Township, as it's otherwise known. Requesting permission for promotional signs to be posted for an extended period of time from May to December 2021. Ms. Ray.
That's correct. There's going to be sandwich board signs placed throughout the municipality, as well as 3 banners that are being approved by the DOT and JCP&L. So this is, that's a separate issue. This is for the roadway signs, the sandwich boards.
So these are the sandwich boards that will be posted around town. Since this is really coming through the township, we're essentially giving ourselves a courtesy review,
Correct.
but we have done this in the past. So any questions or comments regarding the special use permit for the farmers market?
So are we actually communicating with NJDOT on the placement of signs along 206?
Yes, we are.
And have they indicated that they're okay with it?
They're okay with the roadway banners. The others we just need to put in, the areas that we put in before that I sought approval for last year, so they were fine with that. We didn't have any removed last year at all, so they approved the locations.
Great.
Couple got run over.
Yeah, that's about it. A
So-
little destroyed, but
All right, so any questions or comments, maybe a motion to approve special use permit for the farmers market signs?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, let's see, oh, actually, these are different. We've got an off-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company on December 11, 2021 at 12 p.m. at the Pottersville Firehouse, 4 Hacklebarney Road, Bedminster, New Jersey. And we also have a social fair permit to benefit Gill St. Bernard School on May 17, 2021 from 7:45 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Hamilton Farm Golf Club, 1040 Pottersville Road, Bedminster. Any questions or comments either regarding the 50/50 for Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company or for the social fair permit to benefit Gill St. Bernard School? To none, may we have a motion to approve both the 50/50 raffle and the social fair permit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair. We will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I don't know about the rest of you, but it seems like this past 2 weeks here was a blur. I don't have too much specifically to update. Store Press is not yet met for this month, so I'll have an update later on. On the DPW front, we continue to do the paving. I understand that Okura that's been completed in addition to Revere and Sergeant Stoddard Drive. Did get some good feedback from the folks up at Revere, Sergeant Stoddard, very appreciative, thankful for the paving. So thank you, John, for that. Hadn't heard from Okura yet, but I'm sure we will, but I understand that it has been done. So thanks for that. And I don't know, John, if you want to just chime in, is there an update on River Road or Black River Road at all?
I've not heard anything from Paul Farrer's office. Last time I spoke to Rich Kwame, which was probably about 3 weeks ago, he was trying to finalize the base map information, and then we're going to do a site visit just to see if
and then we also talked about maybe doing a look-see over at Knox Park to see if there was a need for pavement over there. So we'll take a look at that. And I guess we're still doing cuttings, and it's the grow season, so we're out there in the fields doing the lining and the cutting and all that. So thanks, John, you and your team. It's a big effort, but it's important for the kids in particular this year to get out there and that let's give them the best experience that they can, and everybody's using our fields actively. But that's all I got.
Great. And I will say that I went out to both Okura and Revere and Sergeant Stoddard. Must have been a day or two after completion, and everything looks great. Certainly Okura was a mess. And John, you feel confident that that little swale you did at the end, that's going to take care of the drainage issues, put it all back to that right away back there?
I have yet to hear from the property owner making the complaint originally, so that sat all winter like that before we paved, and there was no problem, and I could see that the water was going out through there, so
That's great.
I believe it's working.
Great. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. As Doug mentioned, it's early in the month, but do want to mention that Board of Health will be meeting on May 20th, where they will finalize and adopt a marijuana resolution as input into this committee. And then, Mayor, I assume you will cover Library Board and Land Use Board. Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a review of some programs from the Environmental Commission. They hosted the seedling giveaway last Saturday at Miller Lane, and I heard it was a great success. The trees were distributed by 10:30 or so. John, were you down there?
I can attest to that because I showed up at about between 10:45 and 11, and there were no more seedlings.
Excellent.
Well, except when you show up trying to get a
Yes.
seedling.
So to that point, Whit Parker, who was one of the gentlemen who was helping along with Graciela and John Coates, he suggested next year we ask for more seedlings. So we'll see if we can
That's
get more
great,
out
yeah.
of the state. So that would be
Whit was leaving as I got there, and there was actually two other people who showed up at the same time saying, "We're here for the tree giveaway," and Whit just said, we had all these folks come in and
Good.
200 saplings or seedlings went out like that. So just kudos to Whit and to everyone at EC for putting that together. It was obviously well received and indication that we could support more trees.
Who would have thought that? So quick update for our community garden. Last week, the EC and rec chairs, Dawn March and Bill Rosen, rec township liaison, Gina Fernandez, Robin Ray, and our new rec director, Neil Mastrobuono. All right. And I reviewed some plan basics from some other of the community gardens around, and we developed a list of our own basic ideas. So using Dawn's suggestion, Robin and Neil are going to forward our list to our town engineer for an estimate of how much he will charge to come up with that basic plan. So we'll review the estimate because we want to know how much it's going to cost before we spend any money. We'll bring that cost before you guys and see what we're going to do next. JVH, we've got some programs for you. The 6th annual Field of Honor is coming up. It's running May 22nd through July 11th. And this year there will be a special event to celebrate the field on July 10th from 11 to 2. So I'm suggesting that everybody go to the farmer's market, find something tasty, bring it over to the house, bring a blanket and sit down outside to enjoy a patriotic musical performance by the White House Wind Symphony. Something new. There'll also be a demonstration by a blacksmith, a spinner, and a lace maker. I think that'll be a nice day. And the house will be open for small groups to tour. You will need to wear a mask and be socially distanced, but that's okay. So we're looking forward to some nice weather and a fun day outside with our residents. And as I bugged them 1,000 times, hopefully this coming week, Laura Purcelli, the new president, will be getting us estimates for the work that need to be done on the house. And we'll bring those before you guys, and we'll hopefully start to get that rolling. I know they've been working on it for a long time, getting some accurate estimates, and hopefully that'll be done this week.
And that's the paint, that's primarily the painting from the exterior, other work that's anticipated?
A little bit of woodworking on windows and things, so hopefully not too bad. Maybe a little bit of roofing, but they're having some experts come and check them all out, along with Derek, who's on the board, who does this for a living. So hopefully it won't be too bad, but they're getting 3 quotes and we'll see where we go.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Bedminster Charities Fall Fest Committee met last week, and after much deliberation, it has been decided that Fall Fest will be postponed 1 more year. The event requires extensive planning from all the charities involved. That begins in January, and in January, things were very different than they are today, and for lack of having enough time to prepare, in addition to some of the charities that were in attendance having canceled their fall events. They voted and there will be no Fall Fest this year. Recreation update, there's 121 kids registered for Camp Bedminster at 8:30 to 12:30 so far. In addition, there's a bunch of afternoon options being offered this year. The ones that have over 10 children registered. So the afternoon camps run from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So the ones that have over 10 children already registered are cooking camp, farm camp, STEAM camp, which is science, technology, engineering, and math camp. Future vet camp, basketball camp, tennis camp, art mixed media camp, art clay camp, and nature camp. We have a rec meeting tomorrow to discuss May 29th event and movie night. And also to have the committee weigh in on the marijuana legislation, and I'll report back next time.
Great, thank you. And so, that last comment, once again, that we've asked the Township Committee to go back to all the subcommittees that they are liaisons with or advisory boards that they sit on, and to sort of get a sense from, and I'm going to focus on two primarily, which is rec and Board of Health on marijuana. As Colin mentioned, that there will be a resolution. And that will be, Colin, do you think that'll be presented at our next meeting?
I know they're finalizing the draft, so I'll see if we can't get an early preview.
And so when is the next Board of Health meeting?
May 20th. So it won't be adopted at our next Township Committee meeting.
Okay, so and we'll talk about this under a little bit further under the old business, where we've got that little ahead. Old business, cannabis law, so that we can sort of work off when that resolution is going to be presented. So that means formally it will be presented to us at the first meeting in June.
Right.
Okay. And Gina, anything further, a resolution or just a general, it doesn't have to be anything formalized. I mean, if Board of Health wants to do it that way, they can. The Board of Health can certainly, whatever comments they have, they can relay to you, they can do it in memo form. But just what do you think their timing is going to be?
For the rec?
Yeah.
Well, we're meeting tomorrow and I'm hoping to get their input tomorrow. So
Okay.
I don't know that they'll do a formal resolution unless you want them to.
No, that's no, not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. So quickly, farmer's market, May 29th. So we're already in the month. I think we talked about this last time. I think we were at 20 plus vendors every Saturday, and some Saturdays will be maybe over 24, 25. There's been, I know, some ideas about working around between the shed at River Road Park, the driveway into River Road Park, and that wood post fence to see if there's a better way of encouraging folks to come in instead of walking up through the driveway as cars are leaving and pulling out and coming back in. Direct some of that pedestrian traffic from the vehicles into the farmer's market. And Renee had suggested perhaps doing like a little bit of a cattle chute on the other side of the shed. So instead of coming in, from the where the cars would pull in normally, that you're putting the walking traffic in on that side. I think Robin and Neil may have had some discussions with John about what could be done out there. Move some of those the slats of the fence to maybe open up some pathways and maybe put some cones or other signs out there to encourage that type of traffic. We'll see.
You're right there, you're going right through a baseball diamond. Yeah.
So it should avoid the baseball diamond if they can come on the side of where the bleachers are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can walk like right next to the,
Yeah, there's a
to the
narrow path
fence.
there,
There's,
right.
there's plenty of walkway.
Yeah, and Neil said it would not interfere with the fields of play. Not that we would anticipate there being use of that baseball field at the time, but even just to make sure that we're minimizing tread on top of a sports field. And Neil said,
I think there's plenty of.
yeah, that's, he
room.
said that there should be plenty of room for that.
Yeah, I haven't done nearly as much as you may or common with a couple times that they're doing the traffic. That's definitely an issue with foot traffic and cars trying to get in and use the same.
Oh, yeah,
And-
we throw our bodies in front of cars as they're backing up, or cars that are coming down and they're not paying attention to the fact that there's pedestrians coming through there. So we're, it requires a bit of manpower, woman power out there to make sure that folks are paying attention, and that's work. But what would work better is having a different path for folks to walk into the market. So that's something we are working on and hopefully plan to have in effect for May 29th. As Robin had mentioned, and we just approved earlier, the signs have been ordered for this year. And thank you to the folks at Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department. Hopefully they'll be posted in
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before. So that's
Special use permit.
coming up. And other than that, we look forward to a great farmers market season. Library board meeting, uneventful library board meeting, but we did approve this year's budget for the Clarence Dillon Public Library. So once again, the library is in season and more programs coming from the library. So that's always great to see. And land use board, we do not have a meeting since our last meeting, and we do have a land use board meeting coming up this week. And so both Colin and I will be able to present further at that time. We did have an affordable housing advisory committee meeting last week, at which time we discussed really the main focus was on the spending plan, the way that Bedminster has a spending plan for affordable housing. So all the funds that we collect or have collected in the years from recapture fees and the fees that we have collected from years back from developers, right? We haven't had many significant really developer fees coming out a long time. But the money that's been established has to be deployed consistent with the township's affordable housing spending plan, which requires getting reviewed and approved if there's going to be changes, not just by the township committee, but also by Fair Share Housing Center, the state's affordable housing advocacy group. So the task before the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is to look at our existing spending plan and make suggestions for revising it. Now, that spending plan was probably last revised maybe about 5-6 years ago. The needs of the affordable housing residents may have changed since then. Funds that are not being utilized can be utilized in a better way. And so we actually had a really, what I would say is a really good meeting talking about how money can be spent, where it's needed, and making sure it's deployed appropriately, and also the constraints on how the money can be deployed. Heather Mahali from CGP&H indicated that since the purpose of it is to promote affordable housing, the money really has to be dedicated or allocated specifically to those residents who qualify and meet the income restrictions. So that's something that was one of the parameters that was given to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Real quick and in real time, folks were looking at what Bridgewater has established and what some other municipalities have established. And Heather is actually pulling up some other municipal spending plans and reaching out to the state Committee on Affordable Housing Administrative Agents. Yes, there's a group for that as well, to bounce some ideas off of them about where they see money coming in and where they see money being deployed. Robin, did I catch all? Is there anything else?
Hit the nail on the head.
Okay, so eventually they'll come back to us with recommendations on the how to change the spending plan if they want to change the spending plan. And then we'll hand it off to John Bellardo or to Melissa Riley to bring those recommendations back to Fair Share Housing, and then back here to make a formal action if we so choose to move forward with those recommendations. And that's what I have for my subcommittees. So I will now turn it over to Ms. Ray for the administrator's report.
Okay, sure. Very briefly, The primary election ballot box is officially opened as of last Thursday, April 29th, in front of Town Hall. The mail-in ballots were actually sent out last Monday, so residents are starting to receive their ballots, and they can use the ballot boxes, or they can come in person on primary day, June 8th. So beginning Friday, the county's ballot retrieval team has been visiting the ballot box and switching out the bins on a regular basis. They will do so through June 8th, excuse me, once a day, including holidays and weekends. And they will also pick up twice on election day, once in the morning and once in the end of the day. Still looking for election poll workers. There's a plea, so I'm just putting that out there. If anybody knows of anybody that's interested, there's a dire shortage and they really need the support. Our new senior van service, I thought I'd just report on this. We actually started the service last Wednesday. We had one rider, but the van did go out. He was a very, very happy rider, and he called us afterwards to say it was a fantastically run program. He was very pleased and he would spread the word. So we have mailed our third flyer out to all the residents. We'll continue to do so through Facebook, social media, through the school library and the Master Association. So continuing on that. DOT maintenance work on the hike and bike trail. I'm sure some of you saw that on Facebook last week. That actually started today. Meredith Hammond reported that it's going to take about 2 days, but it's been extended now through Wednesday. So the trail will be open on Thursday. We've communicated with all the residents via the Master Associations, the school, put flyers out through Community Pass and also Facebook and the website. So, and we've said today that it was extended through Thursday. So one other thing, Gina, I wanted to bring this to your attention. The Greater Raritan Workforce Development Summer Intern Program you turned us on to, we're actually applying for that. We actually sent in the application today. Spoke to Deb Stern about it. If you don't know about it, it's a new summer youth employment program initiative, and it's actually funded by the New Jersey Department of Labor, which engages people to get back out into the workforce because kids have not been able to work the last year. So they're funding the program. Interns are paid stipends by Somerset County through the grant from the state directly to us as the employer. So it's essentially a free program for us with grant money. We thought we'd use this program if we are accepted for an intern to help us with our BHHC files. Get those in order.
Great.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
All I have.
Thank you. So we move to public hearing on ordinances, and we have 3 on for tonight. The first ordinance is ordinance number 2021-005. Excuse me, as I'm just in the right ordinance and then switch my page. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 10, the Township of Bedminster General Ordinances entitled Fire Prevention. This ordinance amends Chapter 10, annual registration fees for owners of multi-tenant business locations and the fees for a certificate of smoke detector and carbon monoxide alarm compliance based on the amount of time remaining before the change of occupancy occurs. So tonight is the public hearing. May we a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-005?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Ms. Ray, who do we have to present on ordinance 2021-005?
Mr. Dill is not here with us this evening, so we're on solo.
Okay.
We're alone.
I see Ken is on. Does Ken have any input on this? I think we have discussed this before.
We have, and I can tell you what the two, there were 2 fees specifically that we were changing. There was one fee that we are actually reducing from $100 to $50, and that was for multi-tenant owners of multi-tenant locations that do not have common areas but are still responsible for any of the services listed above. So that is including, I guess, automatic sprinkler systems, alarms, elevators, mechanical, electrical equipment. It's a whole host of items there. The other one was to increase the smoke sensitive alarm devices from $45 for a 10-day out request to $50, from $70 to $80 for 4 to 10 business days prior, and then for fewer than 4 business days from 125 to 135. And if you recall, Steve said that all of these fees were in line with surrounding municipalities. Actually, they were lower than most.
All right, so we're raising those fees, but they're essentially still lower than a lot of the surrounding municipalities.
Is the idea behind this that it's more expensive for our folks to go out there and monitor properties that have multiple tenants in multiple areas, so it's justifying the enhanced fee?
Correct.
Any further questions or comments from the Township Committee? Not, we can open it up to the public for comments on ordinance 2021-005. Once again, come back to, if you'd like to make a comment on this ordinance, if you are participating by phone, hit *9. If you are participating by Zoom, scroll to the bottom of the screen, put your cursor on participants. When the raise hand sign pops up, click on raise hand. Ms. Ray, do we have any?
I'm not seeing any comments. Mayor.
Not seeing any comments. All right, then we will take a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 2021-005.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, may we have a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-005?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next is ordinance 2021-007, an ordinance appropriating $108,000 for body camera equipment for the Bedminster Township Police Department. This ordinance appropriates capital funding for the purchase of mobile video recorders, body cameras, and data storage equipment. Certainly, this is something that the Township Committee has discussed at length since the governor mandated that all municipalities in the state of New Jersey, that those police departments would be required to have body cameras. So why don't we take a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Chief Rock.
I'm here, Mayor. So this ordinance, obviously, as the mayor stated, well, I'll take a step back. So I knew a couple of years ago that our current mobile video recorders in the vehicles needed to be upgraded. So, back in 19 and 20, it was a capital request and money was set aside. And hopefully in 2021, that's when the cars were going to all get done into inside applications, as well as the new storage system was going to get done in 2020. So when the governor signed the new legislation back in November of 2020 requiring us to have body cameras, I guess, it couldn't happen at a better time, because, we were already in the process of upgrading. So, we're going to have all new equipment that is going to work seamlessly. And, the body cams will turn on when the videos in the cars turn on. It'll be the wireless download from outside of headquarters for the cars. We'll have racks inside headquarters to secure the body cams, and they will go to the internal server. We looked at, being the size of our police department, we're going to keep it internally and not have to worry about the cloud. And hopefully, it's going to be enough stored within our own building rather than having to send data up into the cloud. So, this money is for the 7 total vehicle units. It is for 2 inside interview units, recording systems, and 20 body cameras. So every officer will, be issued their own body camera, because there's certain days throughout the year that we are all in town working and in uniform. So that will be one of the requirements, that everyone has a body camera on. And I think that covers it.
So Chief, and I think most folks certainly participating in this call, have heard me mention this before, is that when the governor announced this requirement, he indicated that the state was providing, and I do admit I forgot the number, however many millions of dollars that the state was allocating for municipalities to go and purchase the body cameras and the other necessary equipment. So one is that there's money from the state for municipalities to purchase body cameras. However, we don't know how much Bedminster is going to get, nor at this point am I aware of how much any municipality is going to get from that funding. Chief, do you have any update on from your sources?
I can tell you that the funding was $58 million. The grant applications, it's more of a reimbursement program. So they were all due by April 30th. We have submitted ours. The state will work through and see how many requests they have, and then they will divide the $58 million amongst the ask. And they're saying by June 1st, which is the day that the body cameras are supposed to all come live in every police department across the state that does not have them, that day we should know how much money they will be awarding to Bedminster. You know, the cost of the camera might be covered, and you know, back end costs of some of the storage. So you're going to get a per camera amount, and if the camera is cheaper, the remainder of that money can be put towards the storage solution.
Right. So putting this into context, $58 million across the 565 municipalities in Bedminster, in New Jersey, let alone the other law enforcement agencies that are out there, that 58 million is going to go pretty quickly. So, you know, I'm hopeful that we do receive some reimbursement from these grants. But I think we have to anticipate it not necessarily being a significant hit on these expenses. So, but we've gone through the budget. If we receive the grant in this year, that's great, right? Whatever amount we get, that's great. But we've already made the appropriation for the $108,000 for both the mobile video recorders for the vehicles, as well as for the body cams and the data storage under this new mandate. Any other questions or comments for the chief?
No.
Chief, just on the on-site storage, are other municipalities going to using web services?
I would imagine some of them are. I mean, you know, we're small, so I think we could handle it internally on our own internal server. And, you know, the larger police departments, I don't know, you know, this is all new to me. I know I could tell you that the current server we have had for the last 8 years for the vehicles, we've never had a storage problem. But, you know, now we're going to have the car video as well as, you know, officer body video on a daily basis. So, you know, it's a learning experience for everybody.
And Chief, has the state or the prosecutor's office or the AG's office given guidance on data retention?
Yes, in the actual legislation, it speaks of certain criteria, 180 days, and then if it's there's a whole bunch of different other categories where you might have to secure it for a lot longer, but it's not clear as to how you can secure it. So can I take that off the server and put it on a different device and keep it in a secure location? You know, there's a lot to work out, and the original Attorney General's directive on body-worn camera usage was issued in 2015. So I'm sure that needs, you know, needs to come in line with 2021, especially with the marijuana legislation. How, you know, we shall activate a body camera when dealing with underage persons and marijuana and alcohol. So I think it all needs to go into one policy instead of having a bunch of different policies that you have to refer to.
Okay. Any further questions or comments for Chief Rock? Okay. Well, I guess we just open up to the public for questions or comments regarding ordinance 2021-007. Once again, if you are participating by phone, hit *9. If you're participating by Zoom, scroll to the bottom, put your cursor over participants. When raise hand pops up, click on raise hand.
Not seeing any comments, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. May we have a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-007?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, may we have a motion to approve ordinance 2021-007 appropriating $108,000 for body camera equipment for Bedminster PD?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Thank you, Chief Rock.
Thank you.
The next ordinance is ordinance 2021-008, an ordinance of the Township of Bedminster, County of Somerset, New Jersey, appropriating $75,000 for sewer utility capital improvement projects for the sanitary sewer transmission system. May we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we do have with us DPW Director John Mance. Are we picking up John on the audio?
No, but I can give him a microphone.
Okay, John, you just want to quickly describe what we're doing with the sanitary sewer transmission system and what this money is for?
So with the new agreement that we just did with PPAC Gladstone, PPAC Gladstone was our operator with the sewer utility and SCAD operation. They held a $50,000 capital ordinance for the three municipalities of PPAC, Bedminster, and Fort Hills. When we took that over, there was some discussion, some lengthy discussion. Years ago, we had a audit of the pump station here at Miller Lane. It was suggested that we increase that amount to $75,000 so that we can make some modifications to the plan. Since we now are taking that on, we did get the $50,000 from PPAC.
Yes, we did.
In our hands at this point in time. And we're going to increase it to the $75,000. So this ordinance is for a $75,000 capital ordinance. Our portion is percentage of based on the flows. So the remaining $25,000, I say, the utility picks up the cost of that and then back.
Any questions or comments from the Township Committee for Mr. Mance, or any other questions or comments regarding this ordinance? If not, let's open up to the public for questions and comments regarding ordinance 2021-008. Once again, if you are participating by telephone, hit *9. If you are participating via Zoom, take your cursor, scroll to the bottom of the screen. Participants, when you see raise hands, click on raise hands, and you'll be identified by Ms. Ray as ready to make a public comment.
I am not seeing any comments, Mayor.
Seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-008?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May we have a motion
Sorry.
to approve
You're gonna beat me on that.
ordinance 2021-008?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda. We have nothing on the consent agenda tonight. We do have 4 resolutions, and the first resolution is Resolution 2021-065, updating the petty cash fund custodian to Robin Ray, Deputy Clerk, due to the retirement of Judith Sullivan, Municipal Clerk. Ms. Ray, What's associated with the petty cash fund custodian?
It's just a formality. Judy was the keeper of our petty cash on hand. We have $200 that we keep on hand as allowed by the Department of Community Affairs. And this is a process that we just need to go through to make that transition.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
No.
Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-065?
So moved.
Second.
The roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-066, appointing Deputy Clerk Robin Ray to the position of Acting Municipal Clerk due to the retirement of Judith Sullivan, Registered Municipal Clerk, until such time as she, Robin Ray, passes her state examination to make her a registered municipal clerk and eligible to be appointed municipal clerk. Ms. Ray,
Correct. Another.
what does this all mean?
Another housekeeping item. As soon as there is a vacancy in the registered municipal clerk office in a municipality, we need to go through this process to appoint an acting clerk. And since I am not registered yet, having not received my grade on my state exam, I am acting until that time,
So when do you expect to receive your grade?
not until after the first week in July.
So, and does the state establish any time limits for how long you can remain in the acting position?
The initial application is for 1 year, and then you can do it for an additional 2 years, for a total of 3.
So for
Necessary.
now, we're appointing you for up to 1 year,
Correct.
but we have no doubt that this will be moot in July.
I
Well,
hope so.
okay, well, based upon the grades you received on your other tests, I would be pretty confident about that. Any questions or comments for Ms. Ray regarding this resolution? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-066?
So moved. Oops.
Second.
We're all there for you, Robin.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 2021-067 authorizes the adjustment of sewer charges due to excessive water usage related to the malfunction of an underground water line. Robin, you got any color for us on this?
Actually, John Mance, you want to speak to this one?
So from time to time, residents who have issues in their residence with the sewer utility, they come to us and say that their water usage is extremely high because of X, Y, and Z. Apparently, this resident, based on the information received from Adriana, said that this resident had a broken water line underground that has been since repaired. Showed me the water data today from 2 years ago and what was last year and where it is today. And there's definitely was a problem at the time. And it's back to where it normally is for usage. So this is just an adjustment on their system because based on water usage.
So the water that they had the leak, was that going down the drain or was that going elsewhere?
In the ground. So the sewer utility is based, the bills are based on water usage. So it was in the ground. It's not going into the sewer itself. It was based on the water usage. So there was a water line broken or cracked or needed to be repaired. They had the entire water line repaired. I believe there was a permit that was issued and it was inspected by Ken.
Okay, great.
So
Do we have any knowledge as to how the water line broke?
sometimes these older lines just have cracks, there's renovations going on, or something happens, it just happens. It's just like a water line, and water mains are break.
Any further questions or comments for John, or any comments generally about this resolution?
Did we communicate with the resident about getting a release of claims and that sort of thing?
I don't even think they put a claim in. Just on their sewer utilities.
May we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-067?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
You did it,
Ms.
yes.
Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Doug was that yes meant to be?
Yes, as in response to yes.
Yeah. Yes, I'm paying attention. And I from me.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution. And I'm pretty certain I have to read something again. Resolution 2021-068 is the adoption of the Bedminster Township 2021 municipal budget. And I'm fairly certain that Ms. Sullivan has drilled into me that this is supposed to be read out loud. So, on adoption for year 2021, resolution 2021-068, be resolved by the committee persons of the Township of Bedminster, County of Somerset, that the budget herein before set forth. Thank you to the state of New Jersey for drafting this, is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations, and an authorization of the amount of, and this is, we're going to go through A, B, C, D, and F. A, $6,766,121.24 for municipal purposes. Then B is for school purposes, which we don't, I believe we don't have that yet. C is the amount to be added for local school purposes in type 2 school districts. So we don't have that. That may even apply to us. D, $369,141.79 for open space recreation, farmland, and historic preservation trust fund levy. E is for arts and cultural trust fund levy, which we don't have. And F is for the minimum library tax, and that amount is $832,574.71. And this goes through the summary of revenues. Surplus anticipated $1,663,000. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated $2,017,110.83. Receipts from delinquent taxes, $180,000. The amount to be raised by taxation for municipal purposes, $6,766,121.24. And amount to be raised by taxation for the minimum library tax, $832,574.71. Total revenues, $11,458,806.78. So that is resolution 2021-068. And we have with us Andrew Kaczynski from the Savocia. Did I pronounce that right? Good. Okay, so Andrew is here, our municipal auditor. Is Bud with you, or?
Bud's here.
Oh, Bud's there. Bud Jones is also there. So I'm not sure Bud, if you or Andrew have comments that you'd like to make about the 2021 Bedminster budget, or you're waiting for us to ask you questions?
We're here for any technical questions you may have regarding the budget adoption or the budget itself.
Okay, so Township Committee. Remember the budget? Remember all those meetings? Long meetings. Any questions or comments for Bud or Andrew? Judy has already walked through the introduction of the budget, the impact on residences, the impact on businesses. So Bud and Andrew are there for questions or comments. Bud and Andrew, thank you very much for your participation tonight. But it looks like after several meetings, the TC is budgeted out. May we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-068?
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And may we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
Excuse me, Mayor. This is Bud Jones. Did we have the public hearing on the budget?
We had the public hearing on the budget last meeting,
2 meetings ago.
2 meetings ago.
I think it's scheduled for tonight. Do I have that wrong, Andrew?
Action 2 meetings ago. This is. the
Oh,
hearing.
this,
Yeah.
This is the hearing.
oh, this is the public hearing?
Yeah.
But it's by resolution?
Yes.
Okay, so here, do we have motion to open?
Oh.
I'm moving to open the public.
We have a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Oh, jeez.
Aye.
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 Okay. So members of the public who have questions or comments, thank you, Bud. If you are participating by phone, hit *9. If you are participating by Zoom, scroll to the bottom of the screen, put your cursor over participants, raise hands comes up, click on raise hands, and Ms. Ray will identify you for public comment.
I am not seeing any comments, Mayor.
All right, thank you for that. Doug, you want to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
On the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, so for, just for
Procedurally.
procedurally, let's redo the resolution for 2021-068. May we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-068 following the public hearing?
So
Second.
Okay, there'll be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Anything to prolong the budget process? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bud.
Great.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
You too. Okay, so we've approved the bill list. Oh, did we?
No, we didn't do that.
We didn't.
Started.
Oh, we started, okay.
Bill.
May we motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
New business, proposed construction fees. So we do have Ken Rogers, our construction official, here tonight to talk about proposing some changes to our fee structure for construction permitting.
And
Ken?
yes, thank you for letting me be here to make this proposal. I do have a couple of items I'd like to share, if I could have the ability to share my screen, if you, as the Township Committee, will be able to see what I'm sharing. I'm not sure how you're set up there.
Sure.
No. Okay, I have that ability now, so that's great. Couple things, just a little bit for information for those on the committee that do not know how the permit fees are used, collected and used. This is a quote out of the Uniform Construction Code that just makes reference to our fee schedule. And I highlighted a couple items there that it's to ensure that the construction revenue is used for construction code enforcement purposes. Their fees are collected pursuant to the schedule and applied solely to meet the municipal costs of enforcing the regulations. That's just emphasizing that we are a user-based fee or organization. We're not tax-based. Of course, if the township committee wants to use taxpayer money to support the construction office, that's of course their choice to do. However, our permit fees are intended to cover the cost of code enforcement. There is also one other item on that list down. I'm hoping you see me scroll down there. That indirect and overhead costs revenues should not exceed 12% of the overall revenue costs. And I'll just make mention of that in one of my display items in a moment here. What we need to do is to make sure that we cover our costs in construction. I have a report that I put together for the last few years, making sure I'm pulling up the right one. This is essentially over the last 10 years, when we did fee increases and when we did not. And I'll do a little explaining here. Back in 2008, 2009, we did increases. In 2011, we did. And we did not do any increases for a few years up to 2015, when we proposed a 10% increase. And the township committee at the time suggested that we make it a 5% increase in 2015 and do an additional 5% in 2016. The 2015 increase happened, but the 2016 increase did not happen. We did have a good amount of revenues that year, as evidenced here. And then in 2017, again, we had a very large amount of revenues come in based on some very large projects that went on during that year. And we had a lot of excess in revenues during those years. And then since then, I had not been paying attention to our revenues and what we were bringing in and what we needed. We have always made our budget. As the township committee has set a budget for us every year, we've always stayed within our budget. The amount of money appropriated, we did not go over that. However, this report shows what we report to the DCA, which is actually a modified report. It includes all fringe benefits, the health insurance costs, the township contribution to taxes. Those items are included in the annual report to the DCA. However, it's not included in our budget line items for our department. The way that report is calculated is we take all of our expenses, which fall in our budget, add on all of those fringe benefits to that number, then we multiply that number by 12%, which is our indirect costs. And then those numbers all get added together, and that's our final costs reported to the DCA. And those numbers are reflected here in the last 3 years. 2018, on that report, we actually showed a 13% loss, 2019, a 13% loss, and 2020, a 27% loss. There was one car that was purchased in 1 year and paid for out of another year, so that skewed those numbers a little bit. Adjusted for those numbers, you see the 19 and 22% in 2019 and 2020. So incrementally for the last 3 years, we've had an increased loss in the department, in part mostly because we did not do any fee increases over the last 5 or 6 years. Of course, 2020 was affected in a small part by COVID issues, so our revenues were down just a little bit from 2020 as a result of that. So what I am proposing that we do is to do a 10% increase in our fees for this year to make up for some of those losses and make sure that we're doing what we need to do. Actually, I think I had a comment at the bottom of that one page I just turned off. Let me go back to it. Yes, yeah, that's where I put it. At the bottom of that page, there was just a note that since we haven't done anything for the last 5 or 6 years, that 10% increase for 2021 would actually reflect about a 1.5% increase in our fee schedule over the last 10 years. That's the way those numbers kind of fall out. Well, of course, we increase our budgets on average 1.5% to 2% every year anyways. So this would be just in line with where we should be as a department and for our fees. I'd like to share one other screen that shows a comparison of just a few of the fees that we find in surrounding towns. I can explain a little bit here. This column in black under Bedminster is our current fees for these few items. In red is what we're proposing in the fee schedule. And then the fees in other towns. We are right in line with other towns in what they're charging for fees. Every town they do their fee schedule according to their own personal needs, and some of their revenues are drawn from one particular area, and then other areas of their fee schedule are kept lower prices in their fees. You can note that with Mendham, their volume, which is for new construction, that's a price per cubic foot. So theirs is 35 cents per cubic foot, where I'm proposing that we go from 5 cents to 6 cents per cubic foot. As a general rule, everything is right in that 10% increase. They might be rounded up or down a little bit here and there, with the exception of some of our electric fees. Some of our electric fees have not been increased very much at all over the last 10, 15 years. They've only received very small increases, and they are a little out of line with what we should be charging and with what other towns are charging. One example, and we have a lot of different fees in our schedule. One example is that 10 horsepower motors. We currently charge $33 for that device on electric fee. And you can see all the other towns are much, much higher than ours on that. And I'm proposing that we take that to 75. There's 3 or 4 other fees on the electric schedule that are very similar to that one. But that's just a basic overview. Just for a point of reference, I'm also the construction official for Lambertville and Frenchtown. Our volume fees there are going up to 8 cents per cubic foot. Cost of work there is going up to $39 per thousand, and a minimum fee of $75 per subcode. That's just an idea of what we're doing down there in Lambertville. I know it's not a surrounding town, but it's just another point of reference for the Township Committee here. I believe there's one other item I'd like to show you. Here, there's a new section that I'm proposing in the fee ordinance, is a construction records clearance. Currently, we do the work, some of the work for construction records clearances. When properties are sold, people will come in and they do an OPR request and want to know what's open on permits, what kind of permits were obtained in the past, and if they need to do anything to close out permits. We do that work, but we don't get paid for it. It's just one of the jobs that we do. And a lot of towns around have a construction record clearance requirement and a payment that they do require for that. There's just a list of a few of them there on the screen now. I'd like to propose that we incorporate that into our fee schedule so that we actually get paid for the work that we are doing. And it will also ensure that all properties that are sold or tenants that change, commercial properties with tenant changes, that these open construction permits have to be closed in order for that change to take place or that sale to take place. And that will help with the backlog of old permits that we just have in our office and help clear them out and get us up to date on everything that we do. The fee schedule that I put in for the construction records clearance is kind of similar to the fire prevention for the smoke detector inspection that's required on sale of property. And I think it's priced at $45, $90, and $180. I think that's what's in the ordinance for that. We would hope that people wouldn't come in within the last 4 days to get that construction records clearance. But the reason for that higher fee is because of the work involved. And likely there's going to be inspections that have to be obtained within a very short period of time. And the higher fee on that last 4 days is more of an incentive to get ahead of the game and get it done within 10 days or 30 days, which is what's in the ordinance to get that construction record clearance done. And if you note on that list, Franklin Township, they just charge us straight up $150 for their construction records clearance. It doesn't matter when they do it. So doing it at $45 is right in line with all the other fees, and by far, of course, much, much lower than Franklin. That is the basics of all the information that I have on what I'm proposing on the fee increases. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those questions for you.
So Ken, I do have a question on your construction records clearance. You got a provision in here that you're suggesting no owner shall permit the sale of a residential or commercial premises under this section unless the requisite construction records clearance has been issued. And then you've got penalties up to $2,000 and a whole mess of other provisions in there. So you're suggesting that that we would adopt an ordinance that would prohibit owners from selling residential or commercial properties without having gone through this?
That is correct. It's just like the smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector inspection that's required. They have to do it in order to purchase the property. They have to get that done. We're just trying to do the same thing so that construction records are all cleaned up and clear, and then the new owner will automatically start with a clean slate on any permits, unless they want to accept these open permits and take responsibility for a project that is incomplete.
Do they take that responsibility by buying a house with open permits, whether they're aware of them or not?
They do, whether they're aware of them or not. This will put in place the means to where they will be aware of them. They won't be blindsided by buying a first piece of property. Nobody did their record search for them. They buy the property and then they find out they've got all of these obligations that are left that have to be cleaned up. If they're old permits that have not expired, but have they're out of date, they might have to pay a permit fee to bring them up to date. We're just proposing that we just get this done straight up for them, so that it's part of the purchase
Well, I understand that, except for the purposes of the smoke detector and carbon monoxide detectors, that's a safety issue, and you can tell me whether or not that's built into the UCC. This has some draconian consequences, and the way you've described it, it's really for clearing out paperwork and clearing out sort of dead end files, and I get that. But I do look at that, your proposed 8.15B, and then I look at your F for violations and penalties. It's certainly something I think that requires a little more conversation. And I guess, tonight is sort of the first introduction of these provisions to the Township Committee. And, we'll have to go through those in a little bit more detail. My recollection of what the Township Committee has done in the past, when construction has come forward with certain recommendations, we've put together a bit of a, hate to say it, another subcommittee of 2 Township Committee members to go meet with Ken and sort of walk through these proposed changes. Just as Ken has already done the work of looking at the surrounding towns, identifying past revenues, and to some extent assessing the impact on the construction budget. I already have an idea for one Township Committee person to be on this, Gina Fernandez. Is there someone who would like to, Gina?
So,
Thank
Mayor,
you for
I just
volunteering.
wanted to, I have no problem doing that. And I just want to make comment, my personal experience. When we bought our house, and a lot of houses in Bedminster are this way, the oil tank had to be removed. And we had to close before the permit could be closed because you have to get a clearance letter. It cracked, oil leaked. The EPA had to come out. They had to test the groundwater. They had to drill down 3 times. So it was like 7 months after we closed, we could get the letter from the EPA clearing us to then close out the permit. So this just delays the sale of properties, and there's a lot of properties like that in Bedminster. So I'm opposed to that. For purposes like for us, we would never close on our house because it was already stressful. We were already having, problems with the sellers not wanting to do what they needed to do. So I just wouldn't want to delay or punish people who are going to purchase a home in Bedminster for permit reasons or to close out paperwork. They have to be closed out eventually anyway, right? So,
And if I could comment to that, it's not set up to where it would delay the closing unless both parties wanted it to delay the closing.
right.
The owner or the purchaser could put in writing that they will take responsibility for that permit. And most of the time that is done, there's an escrow set up in the closing, and that takes care of any costs or expense that may be incurred as a result of accepting responsibility for that permit.
Right.
So it wouldn't delay the closing unless both parties agreed to it and wanted to do it.
Well,
And this is something that is being done in quite a number of municipalities.
Right.
To Mayor Jacobs' comment, it's not part of the UCC. It's not written into the Uniform Construction Code. It's done as a local ordinance in order to facilitate making sure that these things are cleaned up and done.
Right. I'm not saying it would delay it. It would definitely complicate it. That's all.
And how is a prospective purchaser supposed to identify that this obligation exists? We have to scour through our ordinances to figure out that they've got to make these inquiries and get a CRC.
I get phone calls all the time from real estate agents and buyers asking whether they need a certificate of occupancy from the construction office or a records clearance done from our office. It's a common practice in the industry, and they're calling all the time to check to see if they need to do it in Bedminster, and we tell them, no, you do not. You do not have to do it individually.
I mean, I certainly can wrap my head around the idea of, okay, I'm buying this particular property. Are there any permits out there? Did they pull permits for the improvements that were made? I get it. That's all standard and that should be part of the purchase and sale process. My question is just to go the next level down. Do we have an obligation then to tell them, oh, by the way, under 8-1.5B, you've got this part of your contract. You need to negotiate and come to terms with your buyer. I hear what we're saying, where there's a way to, there's got to be a way to get to where we need to be, but I'm just concerned about the process and having come off or dealing with the inability to search public records to find required deliveries to transfer titles is an issue in our town here. I just don't want to exacerbate that problem.
Ken, where did you get this proposed ordinance, the 8-1.5?
This one was modeled after the one in Reddington Township.
So in Reddington?
I actually simplified it a little bit from what Reddington Township has.
Reddington can imprison you for up to 90 days for violation of selling your house without getting a.
I did not change that part of that ordinance. And if you're opposed to that, we could drop that. That doesn't even have to be there. I just modeled this particular ordinance from Reddington Township.
You can smoke as much pot as you want, but you're going to jail for this.
You don't close out your permits, man. You're going to jail. Okay, so thank you, Gina, for volunteering. I have another volunteer to work with Gina and Ken in looking at these proposed fee changes and the CRC proposal.
I wouldn't mind doing that if Gina wouldn't mind having me.
No, of course.
Okay, Gina and Renee.
So clean these up.
Gardens and construction permits.
Get your permit for your garden.
So, without Fall Fest, there's everyone's got some time on their hands. So Ken, what my suggestion is that Gina and Renee will contact you, and if Robin, if there's any other members from Construction Code that you think should be in that meeting, and maybe at some time coordinate back with either Melissa or John Bellardo, maybe do another little feel out of what other municipalities might be doing, other than imprisoning their folks who sell their homes without closing out permits.
Ms. Mayor, I just had one more question for Ken, if that's okay. The expenditures in the budget, is that mostly salaries? I'm just curious.
Yes, the vast majority is salaries.
Okay.
I don't know the breakdown
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted-
between salaries and what our other expenditures are in the department. Of course, the last couple of years, the purchase of a new vehicle has been cut from the budget, so that was a major other expense that we had in the department that has been removed from the last couple of years. And I believe it's been
Trying to get you an electric vehicle as soon as the state comes up with a program that makes sense for us.
I'll get him an electric car.
So Renee, that's one of the things that Renee's looking for, right?
Yep.
Just to dovetail with that comment, Gina, and Ken, if we can think about this, as we talk about raising revenues, well, the flip side is it's a cost to our residents. So if there are opportunities to identify efficiencies, places where we can reduce expense, let's look at them. Because it's, again, I understand why you're justifying this, and we haven't raised these rates in several years, but at the same time, we should always keep a sharp eye on where we can reduce expense, to offset some of these costs. So I just ask you to think about that as you're going through this.
Yes, I'd be happy to think about that. We run on a pretty tight, pretty lean line already.
I know you do. I know.
To cut expenses would possibly mean cutting services.
No, we
That's
don't.
something we can't do because it's user based. They're paying us to do what we do, and
I wouldn't
if
ask.
we don't have the fees to cover it, then the taxpayers have to cover it.
I
don't want to see that happen.
Can we do things more efficiently through automation, through mechanization, however we might do it? We should always be keeping our eyes open for opportunities to do that. And I'll stop there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just
We can talk
asking.
about it.
based on just if it was consistent, a consistent increase every year, the expenditures, aside from the car purchase. Because I didn't remember what I saw on the screen, but it's just making sure that it's consistently an increase every year, not like one year it's, $500,000 expenditure, one year it's 300,000, just checking for consistency.
Yes, well, our revenues, those can't be consistent. We would never know exactly what's going to come in every year. And that's the problem with the construction office budget, and that being dedicated by budget kind of exacerbates that problem a little bit. There are a couple of towns around that are dedicated by rider. When you're dedicated by rider, the state allows you to collect up to 3 years worth of your expenses, your annual expenses, so that you have that buffer to work with all of the time in the department. When you're dedicated by budget, the state doesn't want to see you collect more than 20% for 2 years in a row on your revenues. And so it's a very fluid line to try to hit. And our expenses actually kind of follow the middle of that line all the time, where our revenues are up and down.
All over the place, right?
Sometimes drastic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ken, so Gina and Renee will reach out to you, schedule time, and we will keep this matter up on new business or old business if we move it over there. And we'll continue to get updates from both you, Gina, and Renee as those discussions proceed. So thank you for putting this all together, Ken, and look forward to hearing from you at the next time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple items I just want to discuss under new business. One is recycling. So I've heard from folks in the hills, from some of the condominium associations and the presidents of the masters regarding COVID and recycling. So the emphasis on deliveries and not going to shops and not going to stores, and in fact getting your food delivered, creating a abundance of cardboard and other materials. And when the recycling bins are full, folks are taking their cardboard and dumping it into the garbage dumpsters. And then those get filled up with both garbage and recycling. So you get into another situation. So one is essentially working with the county on what we can do with recycling. And then the second issue is with the new canisters that the county has rolled out for recycling. And this is coming primarily from the hills. And I will say, Colleen Marr, who's the new county administrator, has been terrific. So I've reached out to her a couple times on this issue. She was responsive. The county DPW director, Paul McCall, who is in charge of the recycling pickup, also incredibly responsive. And I do have a call with them and with some of the reps from the condominium associations and the master associations for later this week to discuss the recycling issues facing, once again, primarily the condominium areas. Having lived there in Fieldstone, you get a very small garage, if you're lucky to have a garage. So those units that have garage, probably the same size that
I can hardly get out of my car.
Okay, so you can hardly get out. So with the new going from
Although that could
the
be other
recycling
reasons.
bins to now these one big old recycling for commingled plastic and metal, and then another for commingled paper products.
It won't
Folks
fit.
in the right, they can't park their cars now. So that's an issue we're going to discuss with the county. And then if you're in a condominium association where you don't have garages, you have dumpsters. So you have dumpsters for recycling, you have dumpsters for garages. And most of the times they've got fences or gates around those. With this new pickup, they might need larger dumpsters. But that may mean larger enclosures. So I'm not sure if anyone has raised this issue to the county before. I think not, based upon my earlier discussions with Colleen Marr. But I will be having that call and we'll see if we can get some action. Okay, I'll let you know when that's coming up. I think it's
Wednesday at 5,
Wednesday. Thank you.
just
Thank you.
before the EC meeting.
Thank you. Wednesday at 5. Okay.
Because a couple of the neighborhoods just put up the vinyl.
Oh, yeah,
To get rid of the wood that were falling apart, they in the last couple of years. So they just spent some money on those sheds.
I will say there
And
was.
now they'll do new ones.
There was an issue that came up, and this was actually preceded, and we'll hit this in just a few moments. Doug and I, along with Heather Mahaly from CGP&H and John Bellardo, our town attorney, and Frank Bash, our town planner, we did a little walkthrough of Pluckman Park, Village Green in Cortland, looking at some of the issues, looking at some of the maintenance issues, but also taking a hard look at the way garbage and recycling was maintained. Now, it turned out the day we were there literally had been either that day or the day before there had been a recycling and garbage pickup. So it did look good, but certainly we had heard from residents that,
If you came through the next day, you would have seen a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably just timing, but the other option obviously is to see if they can get more frequent pickups of the dumpsters, so.
Yeah, so that comes from us because we pay the county, the township pays the county for the recycling. Some of the associations with smaller dumpsters, they've paid either, and I think primarily they're garbage haulers, which also do recycling. They will pay them to do extra recycling pickup. So there's we pay a base fee to the county to service our recycling. But if associations need to supplement that with additional pickups, they certainly can do so. But that is something that will probably be presented as an option from the county when we do have that call. Other thing I do want to follow up on is the DOT improvement. So when I had to put on my traffic engineer hat, which I don't really have, and run through the proposed DOT improvements last week, I believe it was Mr. Garcia talked about, hey, is there something that we can do over at Hills Drive so folks aren't making that left turn from the southbound traffic and not taking the jug handle. So Chief Rock and I discussed it, and then the chief immediately sent an email back to Syed Hussein over at DOT, and he responded right away saying, yep, great idea. We've heard complaints about that intersection, and we're going to see if we can't do something similar over at the Hills Drive jug handle as to what we're proposing for Bedminster at River Road jug handle. So I did want to talk about, just briefly mention it. And as that continues, we'll find out from DOT what their actual schedule is, and we'll continue to update that as proceeds. Okay, so we move to old business, cannabis. So we had talked about getting comments from both Recreation and from the Board of Health, what their comments are. Melissa, we are lucky to have Melissa with us instead of John Bellardo because Melissa is on the cannabis team over at McElroy. I'm not trying to think if we have anything else out there. Were there any other requests directed to McElroy, either to you or John or for
The
Claude?
only update is we reached out to the prosecutor's office about the HOA question on whether someone could get arrested for smoking in the parking lot or whatnot in the HOA. Prosecutor's office would not give us any guidance. They said it's on us. So we are of the opinion that no, the police could probably not arrest based on the public consumption prohibition of the statute. But if the HOA sets forth their own regulations, then that would be a different story. So it's on the HOA to decide what they want to do.
So does that also address, so we talked about a couple things. So one is in the parking lot, right? You're at the parking lot of the condo association and you're smoking. But then you sort of bring it one step closer to the unit. You're on the steps where you have shared steps, or you've got a shared patio or shared lawn, common area. It's up to the HOA.
Right, that's privately owned, it's not.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? That's
No,
their
I get it.
jurisdiction.
I get it.
That's their jurisdiction, you know?
But it's the aerosolization that it's,
Yeah.
you know, you can't control the smoke. The smoke is going to go wherever the wind goes.
But I mean, rhetorically, I mean, how would it be any different than?
It isn't.
Rules about cigarettes.
Right, it isn't.
I mean,
Well, unless the HOA has something in place,
That's
right?
right.
Now that, you know, marijuana has a different odor and a different smell and maybe more offensive and, you know, we're concerned about secondhand smoke with cigarettes. Certainly we should be equally or perhaps more concerned about secondhand smoke from marijuana, smoking marijuana. You know, it's a question whether the HOA rules are going to keep pace with, you know, the legalization process coming out of the state. And my guess is they're not.
Do we collectively as a group feel any benefit, any need, any, you know, to reach out to the HOAs to have a sort of, you know, 30,000 foot conversation, like these are the things you need to start thinking about? I don't know whether it's even on their minds.
Well, we certainly had, when we had the presentation, we did have a condo president. We did have, he's also on the master for his community as well. Renee,
Jeff, and Carol was on there too, I think.
Carol was on our land use board. We went to the presentation and,
we did the same presentation
right,
at the land use board.
and you captured another few condo presidents.
Yeah.
Carol, Tim Walter.
Tim Walter,
Yeah, but I
Jeff
mean,
again.
they're getting it because of, you know, their involvement in something else.
Yes,
So
right.
it's like, you know, you've got a cherry pick here, you got a group, an association over here that's in the know, you got somebody over here that's in the know, but what about a global? Hey, all hands
I would
on
agree that
deck.
That's a good idea.
Just so that-
The thing that you
It's proactive.
would want to do, I think, is when, if you're going to invite them to a Zoom meeting or a meeting, that they need to have their attorney with them, because the attorney is the one who's going to dictate the rules, what they can do.
Really?
Based
Yeah,
on-
but
I don't know
I mean,
about that.
really, the
Usual.
attorney should be
Attorney's gonna
taking
pay for
direction. The attorneys,
Well,
So he's gonna pay for it. The decision for what they
Yeah.
decide to do
Well,
should
that's
not
true.
come necessarily from that. It should
Well-
come from the association, the folks that live there.
and I'm going
Yeah.
through who's,
because then the attorney will be able to tell them what they can do.
well, yeah, except we are throwing up an issue. We're saying, here's an issue. The township committee we asked our attorneys to do a presentation. We've identified concerns. Some of the concerns that came to us are condo related. Here's what we've discussed. Here's some conclusions that our attorneys have come with. Condo boards, masters, we're teeing this up for you. You guys need to anticipate these issues. Now, their lawyers can give them direction on how to do so, but ultimately,
Yeah, that's.
whether
fine.
it's an issue they want to present is something that comes from their associations, their boards, and the master.
This
And
just gives them a heads up.
Well,
Yeah,
and look,
right.
part of this is as a messaging service. Because folks come, they drop their head on their pillow and they live in Bedminster, right? And they just expect Bedminster is going to pass a rule that addresses this, but they don't realize our rules cannot infiltrate into these private communities.
Right.
And they need to be, you know, alerted to the fact that you need to govern yourselves. And this is an issue that's come to you. We've identified it. We're going to deal with it over the coming months and what we intend to do for the county. But what about somebody living in common area in the hills?
and often, you know, we've all campaigned, we've all knocked on doors, and, you know, the distinction between what township can control and what the condo can control is blurred among many residents. And if there's issues that need to be presented to those associations, so they're fully up to speed of these issues. You know, Gina just mentioned outreach, being proactive. And I think that's something that this committee has been particularly proactive. And we've been diligent on doing outreach, even when the outreach isn't necessarily what they want. But hey, we're going to let you know that this is what's going on at the state. This is what's going on at the county level. And this is what's going on at the municipality level. And there may be information here that's of value to you. In fact, once again, I'll say it. One of the reasons I wanted to make sure that we ran the presentation from McElroy in a public setting was so that whatever your position on marijuana is, you could understand that here's how the law works. Here's what the municipality can do under this law. And then from there, the discussion went a little bit further into kind of associations because that's such a critical element of life here in Bedminster. So we did it in a public forum. We made sure that it's out there. We made sure that the presentation from McElroy was up on our website. I'm not sure how many folks are downloading it. Colin and I reiterated it at the land use board. And to some extent, this is why I'm pushing it out to everyone when they go to their subcommittees, committees, advisory boards, and everything else to again promote it there. I think this is something that is fair. And I will say that the liaisons to the condominium and master associations are Committeewoman Mareski and Committeeman Hickey.
Let's do it.
So Renee, you found yourself on two things tonight.
Oh, man.
And you know what? The clarity will benefit us because let's face it, at the end of the day, when there's an issue, who are they going to call? It's going to go to Chief Rock and the police department.
Right.
So the more that we can get, educate and provide clarity on this issue to all the county boards, the better off we all are.
It's better to be proactive than reactive.
Yeah,
right? When it
absolutely.
starts coming.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
No, I love it. It's so funny because there's so many issues we have in town where they don't want to be told what to do. And then there are the other issues where we have to say, no, you're in charge. Take the reins back. It's not us.
Right.
So,
Yep.
but this is one where it's good to have the education out to them so they can start to take their own steps, whatever that might be.
Right. Look, some associations may want to put something in place, others may not. That's up to them.
Yep.
But, let them take advantage of the issues that we've presented and that our attorneys, thank you, Melissa, again, have presented to us. And it was, that presentation was great. So let's, and there's been updates, right? We even got an update tonight on it. Do we still have Mr. Garcia on the line?
We do.
So, Mr. Garcia, even though we already went through public comment, since this, I know this is an issue that you've been following with us from day one, we'll give you an opportunity to talk about marijuana and let's have it. So if you're interested, you've got the microphone for a bit.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I definitely will love that communication link to bring up to the master associations, especially about this latest update. It is concerning. I used to be the vice president at the Hills Village North Master Association, and I've been attending every single meeting recently, and definitely this is an update that they need to, or have this communication. They definitely would need this. Another question too is, I'm not sure if I got a full explanation or coverage, is again the parking lots for the King Shopping Center, and also, Fresh Market. How does that fall there, being that they are private property also?
Well, I think Melissa's ready on that one, right? Because I think we covered that at the last meeting. So Melissa, you want to take that?
That is a public place under the definition in statute, so that you are prohibited from smoking, aerosolizing, and vaping cannabis in the King's parking lot. any
Fresh
other-
Market.
Right, Fresh Market, any strip mall parking lot, things like that.
Okay. Another area of concern is our park systems, our trails, biking trails, with families going through and teenagers and exposure. I do know, I understand from the previous meetings that this is something that falls back on the state. But is there going to be an effort to do what Bridgewater did in mirroring the creation of ordinance covering public smoking out in public, such as the park systems, having a specific ordinance in there? What's the benefit of doing that? Will that help in maybe communicating signage or communicating to all folks that enjoy these recreational areas, that smoking is discouraged, or somehow put in an ordinance where we can maybe collect some sort of a fee that would go back to the town? Um, I don't know what the position is of the committee on that.
So, Mr. Garcia, so first off, I think as McElroy presented before, aerosolizing in any way of cannabis in the public is not permitted. But on the specific issues regarding the recreation facilities, Committeewoman Fernandez has a recreation committee meeting coming up this week. And as I said in the beginning of the meeting, she's got to hear from them and hear from the rec committee, and then she'll take their comments back to the township committee at our next meeting. So we certainly look forward to hearing from the rec committee as to what their thoughts are about using, ingesting, consuming cannabis, marijuana products in the park system and the trails and everything else.
So can I just jump in? We laid out a time frame for us to adopt an ordinance to opt in, opt out, or opt out, I should say. If you don't opt out, you're in. When do we start trying to proceed and go down that road and lay out the timing so that we know we're going to hit that date? We haven't had a full discussion about it, but it seems to me we need to put that on the calendar so that we're making sure that we're introducing and we're hearing, and we put enough time in there that we can get it all done.
Yep. So August, the deadline for opting out is what, August 21st?
Yeah.
22nd, August 21st, something like that. So the way it would work is looking at the calendar, if we were to hear from Board of Health with their, and that my guess is that's probably gonna be the final board that we hear from, since we'll hear from rep sooner. We should be able to put something in effect or start the process by June, and that gives us plenty of time to meet that August deadline.
Yeah.
That gives us June, July, and if for any land use decisions that require referral back to the land use board for consistency, that's enough time to build in the referral back to the land use board.
Yeah, I mean, and in addition to comments from our trusted boards.
Yes.
There is the overarching problem that council has told us that the date for us to make a decision is going to come before the date we see the regs as to how it's all going to work. So with due respect to all of our committees, they could all come back and say it's the greatest thing in the world and we should be open for business across the board. No one knows what that means. So how can we legitimately even consider having any of these in options when we don't know what we're doing?
But that information is being presented to the boards. It's being presented to them so that they know that we're waiting on that. So we've gone through this. So directed both the rec committee, the Board of Health. The Board of Health, my guess is by now, has gone through that review. The land use board has gone through that review. So they know what's out there. Doug, there are towns that are opting in that are specifically saying, hey, we're going to pass an ordinance. This is great. We want it, right? They're doing that in the same position as every other town, that the rules and regulations, that the requirements that the state is supposed to issue aren't coming for months. And that's being generous. So they're making that decision based upon very little information. So is that the prudent thing to do? Look, I said at the last meeting, I even spoke with someone in the governor's office, our liaison. And his, when I said, there's a good chance that, the township committee may decide to opt out because the rules aren't in place. And the response was, yeah, it sounds like a prudent thing to do.
That's I mean.
Okay, so,
Isn't that what Berners did already?
they started that process.
I guess what I'm, in a way, kind of getting to in my mind and able to articulate at this moment is that we should, yes, hear from our committees. But once we know what it all involves, we should go back to our committees and rehear from
Yes.
them again, right? So they're gonna have to be asked twice.
Right.
That's
yeah.
what I guess
Right.
that's sort of.
But
Very
it
clumsy.
runs on many different levels. One is the licensing, right? So you can say, we're going to allow licenses or not say anything, in which case then you by default allow licenses. As you said, you articulated once that you could allow grow operations, but not dispensaries, right? That's something you could do. But moving off just a little bit is there's still stuff that we can do that we control in Bedminster. The parks, consumption in parks. So, right, you've got aerosolization, but you've got the tinctures, right, Colin?
Tinctures.
Colin, what's tincture?
Something put in your mouth.
Yeah, close enough.
Like a skull bandit.
So a little dip will do you.
Yeah.
So there's other ordinances that can be put into effect regarding consumption in public spaces, not necessarily aerosolization, but you can expand it, right? Some of those are within the purview of the municipality. So it's not necessarily just the licensing, but it's a little broader than that.
I think that as this all rolls out, there's going to be a lot more information that what we don't know is so much more than what we do know about how this is going to play out. All we can really look at is how it's gone down in Colorado and in California, right? There's nothing to even compare it to. So I think that as time goes on, things are going to change regardless. So we may have to keep going back to our committees.
Yeah.
Because regardless, things are going to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, once the rules come out and the rules for maintaining a grow facility are not offensive.
Right. Then
maybe you come back and you say, hey, you know what? We got a lot of farmland and some open space. And if the state is going to allow open field grow facilities, which I'm still not sure if that's allowed.
We'll wait for the regs.
Yeah, right. So there's the expert.
All of our clients that are applying for cultivation licenses plan on building a greenhouse because you need the security.
You probably
get hooked up to the police.
Yeah. So if that's where it's going to be, then that's different than an open field.
Yep.
So if you're going to have greenhouses now, you got to look at it. Okay, well, you're going to have these connections, you're going to have these security requirements, you're going to have lighting, and then it devolves from there. But if there was something that was, once again, I'm going to just use the term non-offensive, well, then maybe you go back to the land use board and say, what do you guys think about this? Is this something that, is this something that you could see allowing here so that while we projecting, if we opt out on the licensing in Bedminster today, can we opt in later on 1 and 2, but not 3, 4, and 5? Which I believe council says yes.
Right.
So that's something that,
the devil's
projecting
in the details.
beyond the August deadline that we'll consider whenever those rules come out in a detailed form that you can then make, informed decision. Right now, if you opt in or don't opt out, you're just waiting to see what the state takes or the state gives, and that's what you'll be accepting.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an update or lack thereof, I've been attending the Cannabis Regulatory Commission meetings, which is the body that is going to be producing the regs. There's no update on when they're going to be.
Yeah, they just were formed just a few weeks ago.
Right, and they kind of were working on it prior to, but there's going to be a meeting tomorrow. I don't anticipate anything.
Have they finally worked out their makeup, or are they still dealing with who's on, who's off?
Right now, they have a permanent makeup, but I think based on the litigation, there's talks of still adding 2 additional members. but
Okay.
I haven't heard anything that's going to happen or not going to happen.
Yeah, that sounds like it's on the slow boat to nowhere.
The meetings are very interesting though. They're long, but interesting.
Mhm.
A lot of public comment.
I'm sure.
I'm
Sure.
Mostly actually on like random, last meeting, they were talking about testing protocols and what the regs should be on testing the product. So there's all of these testers from other states or from our state that are just giving their input. So it's
Trying to get their foot in the door.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
There's- I
Right.
mean, the big companies. are-
Big
are
business.
lobbying.
It's
It's
big
millions of
business,
dollars, billions of dollars, sorry,
Yep.
invested in this. I was able to attend the community in crisis presentation on marijuana and how it affects the youth in the community. It was hosted by SAM, which is Smart Approaches to Marijuana, Colorado-based nonprofit. And if you want, I can just give you some brief.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
We're in that section of the meeting.
Yeah, so the question on the ballot was a yes or no question, which ironically is funny because I'm an educator in New Jersey and there are no state exams that have a yes or no question. They're all explain how you got your answer. So the legalization of marijuana was a question, yes or no, right? And legalization kind of sounds like the opposite of decriminalization, right? But it's not necessarily promoting commercialization of recreational use, particularly how it's related to our youth, right? So if the question had stated, are you open for commercialization of recreational use, commercializing it, marketing it, gummy bears, all that thing, chances are people may have answered yes or no to that, right? But the question was, do you want it to be legal? Meaning, do you want to decriminalize it? So big companies have all invested billions of dollars. Atria, that's the owner of Marlboro. There's like a lot of big money to be made. And what I didn't know, so I thought maybe you guys didn't know this either, is that marijuana can be broken down into various components, one of them being CBD, which has health benefits, and one of them being THC, which is what gets you high in the marijuana. Okay, so it's being genetically modified right now so that the THC is more potent. Okay, so in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, like what you were growing in the ground is now being genetically modified so that the high is more potent and more addictive. Okay, and the Colorado opioid fatalities have consistently increased since this legalization of marijuana. So whether marijuana is or isn't a gateway drug, the opioid fatalities have increased. Whether there's a correlation, a cause and effect, we don't know. The industry, marketing, commercialization targets children, and they're fighting, actually lobbying in Washington, D.C. to get the regulations reduced. So that when I'm talking about marketing to children, it's they have gummy bears, they have Kit Kats with marijuana in them. There's sodas, colored sodas, and I had the slides, but they're on this presentation, which I'll give you the link to. And it's just that the potency of those products, as opposed to actually smoking a joint, is 95% potency of the THC, as opposed to a joint, which is just 15% potency. And it has contaminants because they're not federally regulated, because it's not FDA approved. And then the Colorado Health Department reports, the most alarming one that stuck out to me, and again, I screenshotted some of the slides, but I will give you the link to the presentation if you want to see, is that 400% increase in Colorado in marijuana poisoning in children 0 to 9 years old. So alarming. So we don't know what's coming down the line as far as regulating this, right? All we can handle right now is what we want to do in our town. And ironically, in California, 80% of their counties opted out for the sale of marijuana, including LA County, which is
really
ironic. Yes. So again, if you're talking about social equity, a lot of the places that are selling, I'm not talking about cultivating, I'm talking about selling marijuana, are inner cities. And I mean, that just seems like it defeats the purpose. So you're just criminalizing something, but now you're selling it in these areas, right? So that's all. That was some of the things that stuck out to me in that presentation to really keep in mind. And again, I had no idea that CBD and THC were completely different things, and that CBD is just for health benefits, and that THC is what gets you high, and that things are being genetically modified as we speak. Again, there's billions of dollars in this. So all we can look at is in Bedminster, and it's the long-term effects on our children. And that's what community crisis does, is they deal with the opioid problem that there is. And, you know, personally, am I willing to risk even one of our kids? No way. So that's where I stand on that. But that being said, this is at communitycrisis.org, and they have the presentation right on their homepage. It's a picture of marijuana leaf, and you just click on it if anyone wants to see it.
Great.
Okay. But those were the things that stuck out to me.
Thank you, Gina. And
You're
thank you for participating and sitting in on that. That coincided with the farmers market meeting. So neither Colin or I could make that. So thank you very much for that presentation.
Mayor, Mr. Garcia has a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the question I have is the usage part. Is that something that is also tied to August 21st, or is that like ordinances that we have to create to restrict or put a penalty, civil penalty on usage for law enforcement purposes? Is that something that has tied to the August 21st, or is that something that can be put into place even afterwards?
Yeah, I would imagine it's not, since it's not tied to licensing. So therefore, there could be an opt-out or an opt-in on usage within public venues at any time. But I'm not going to act as an attorney, since I've got an attorney right here.
You're right on the ball, Mayor. It's not tied to the August date. It is already prohibited to consume cannabis in public by smoking, aerosolizing, and vaping. What is not prohibited by the statutes is consumption by other means, that be tinctures or edibles, drinks, the like. So that's what the only additional prohibition, other than the licensing, but regarding the use, the only prohibition that the town can enforce or can impose is that consumption by other means. So at all times and everywhere in the state, smoking, vaping, aerosolizing is prohibited in public places. But that the town can decide if they want to prohibit further consumption by the edible, tincture, drinks, etc. And then the fine is another decision that the town can make, whether or not they want to impose a fine for a violation. But the state statute already prohibits that consumption by smoke, vape, aerosol.
Got it.
Thanks. And that's what I wanted to focus on, the fines. Isn't that something that the Bedminster should look into doing? That would help in for communicating, for signage, that there is a fine ordinance in place.
Mr. Garcia, we're going to come back to this in subsequent meetings. So I'm going to have to sort of cut this short on the this issue. But once again, this comes back to something we discussed earlier. For consumption in the parks, we do want to hear from the rec committee. We want to hear from the Board of Health on that specific issue. And you have to be, just as a matter of course, I'll say, focusing on fines as a way of revenue generation. Not sure that, the idea of you're then essentially, if you're willing to pay the $50 fine, then you're ready to allow the consumption in a public space. I'm not sure that's necessarily the right message we want to send out. But I do we're going to revisit this issue, and the time to do that, frankly, is when we hear back from the rec committee. So that should be at our next meeting. So Mr. Garcia, if you could hold on to those questions, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Sure, not a problem. I definitely don't want to look into portraying that I'm seeking some sort of revenue generation. That was never my intention. It was just a disincentive.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to come back to marijuana next meeting. Probably the next meeting after that, and maybe for a couple more meetings. So maybe it will probably last longer than the budget sessions. Moving on with old business. we've covered COVID-19. Colin gave us the update once again. Additional vaccinations coming from the state, going to the county at both the Somerset facility that's in Franklin, right? I mean, I know we said Somerset, but it's in Franklin.
Right.
And then the RVCC facility. So 7,000, which is really, we had heard frustration from the county board of health, or I want to say the board of health, the county health department, and the number of vaccinations that were being made available to the county. Getting 7,000 in a week versus 700, a big improvement. Once again, it's out there. And whether you're going through the state programs or going through CVS or Walgreens, you have your opportunity to get vaccinated, please do so.
I just saw, just to interrupt there, Somerset County released a data today that said that 50% of Somerset County adults have been fully vaccinated and 70% have received at least their first dose.
70%?
70% of adults.
Wow.
70% of adults in Somerset County
Received
have,
their first dose.
and 50%
Are
fully
fully
vaccinated.
vaccinated, correct.
All right, it's good numbers.
Yep.
Doug. Pluckman Park.
Unfortunately, it's been disappointingly quiet. We had our walkthrough with the potential purchaser, and that was the last we've heard. So,
And then when we went through, I guess, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
yeah, we went, had a sort of a walkthrough and showed the issues there. Perhaps we just communicate back with the current property manager and current ownership as to potential availability and ways to spruce it up.
And Heather, I'm not sure whether Heather mentioned this or Robin, did you mention it? That residents were saying that they were getting a 5% rent increase?
Correct. Heather's looking into it for me. They received, when their rent went from $854 to $917.
And so they're subject to federal HUD
HUD
requirements.
rules, correct. And Heather was going to check in to see if that was within the guidelines.
Okay, so once
I followed
again,
up with her today.
we talk about this committee being proactive. So when we heard that, this issue, we're asking our affordable housing advisor to look into that issue to see if that 5% is legitimate. So what do you think? Another follow-up from you to the reps?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll
great.
be happy to do that.
Great. Utilities.
You scared her for a second.
Oh, no, you didn't. That's you.
A couple quick updates. New Jersey American Water recently came to our attention, thank you, Ms. Ray, that folks impacted by the Larkspur Court Fire were still being billed for their water service, despite the fact that those impacted have had their water shut off since mid-February. So we put out a request to New Jersey American Water to stop the billing and retroactively credit those accounts for the folks who have been impacted. So more to follow, but they have acknowledged receipt of our request. So we'll let you know how that works out. Just a quick update on cable. It's an aside, but it's important. The FCC announced today that residents with low income or those who lost income during the pandemic will be eligible to enroll in a $50 per month broadband subsidy beginning on Wednesday, May 12th. That's a week from this Wednesday. So eligible households can enroll through an approved provider, or they can go to getemergencybroadband.org. The list of providers is not up yet. I went to the site today. It should be up within the next couple of days, but that's an option for residents, again, who are low income or who lost income during the pandemic.
So can we get a link to that on Township?
You bet.
Township website, Township social media, and
Yep.
then blast it out through whatever other social media outlets we have.
I'll work with Ms. Ray to do that. And then just the last note, as you may recall, at the last meeting, we approved submitting an application for participation in the New Jersey Clean Energy Program, which could potentially make us eligible for up to $100,000 in funds to be used for energy efficient improvements. I'm happy to report that our paperwork went in today, and we await word back on our eligibility. So more to follow on that front. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Mayor.
Now, oh, go ahead. I'm
Ken
sorry.
Rogers has had his hand up. I'm assuming he wants to go back to the Larkspur.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about Larkspur Court. So if you can unmute Ken, but so on Friday, I was following up with both through Robin and staff, where we stood on the connection of the water permit, or plumbing permit to connect the 4 units at the Larkspur Court Fire that were undamaged. So there were 4 units, as everyone may remember, there were 4 units that were undamaged, relatively unscathed. In fact, maybe not even any smoke or very little smoke from smoke damage. And those units would otherwise be regarded as habitable, but for the water line that serves that building was disconnected because of the fire. So if new plumbing could be put in place to serve those 4 units, those residents could reoccupy those units. They are served through a separate electric meter, so they're not tied to the same electric meter that goes to the damaged section. So they would have water, they would have sewer, and they would have electricity. And since the buildings are habitable, or those units are habitable, they can be reoccupied. The one thing that was holding up was, actually, maybe there are 2 things that were holding it up. One was the investigation by the insurance company of the entire building and for identifying the source of the fire. The insurance company has since released the building from the investigation, so now work is able to proceed. And second, since the water connection that we're talking about is not a restoration of the original water line, but instead of creating a new water line, it's regarded by the insurance company as a supplemental coverage. So that work itself had to be approved by the insurance company separate from the reconstruction and repair of the main building. On Friday, I was told that the insurance company had approved the plumbing work to connect those 4 units. And at the same time, literally within about an hour of each other, I know that Ken and Robin were on the phone with me, and Ken had said, hey, as soon as that application comes in, we'll be ready to approve it on the spot. So that was Friday. So Ken, do you have an update for us?
Yes, I do. We received the application to reconnect 7 units this morning.
Great.
6 of those applications were signed this morning, and they should be ready to be released. They should have been this afternoon or tomorrow morning. They'll be ready to be released. The 7th unit is connected to the replacement of an electric water heater as well, and that's going to be reviewed by the electric official in the morning, and then that one will be ready to go as well. So 7 units will be available to get their water a temporary water connection to them.
That's great. So does that mean instead of the 4 units at the end, that there's 3 additional units that will be ready to be reoccupied, or those other 3 units pending some additional repair restoration?
That will be determined when we go out on site to inspect the water line. I told them that I want access to each of those units when we inspect, so that we can verify that the unit is actually habitable. Because I know there were demolition permits, I think, for 9 of the units. I don't remember the exact number.
Right, and there's a total
9 of the
16 units in there. So
yeah, and I think 9 of them were being gutted
yeah,
to the studs. And those permits were issued a month ago.
right.
So that will be your 16.
Yeah.
That's great news.
So that is very good news. Do we know what an idea of how long? When I had those earlier conversations with the contractor, they thought that the plumbing work was probably just a couple days. Would you agree with that, or do you think it might be longer?
That all depends on the plumbing contractor. The temporary water lines, they're going to put only a foot in the ground. So it's just a small trench that they're going to be digging to lay that line in the ground so that it's not a tripping hazard outside. And it just all depends on the contractor, how quickly he gets that done. Theoretically, they could do, I'm not sure where the water service comes into the building, but they could do one trench for the majority of those lines, and then just split them off to each unit to wherever they're going to. But they've got to do the logistics on that.
That's good. And that, once again, I want to thank everyone from the construction office and the permitting side for, prioritizing that. And look, it's been since early February that folks have been displaced. And we're beginning to hear that some of the insurance proceeds for temporary housing, they're drying up because the insurance companies under the different policies may only be providing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months for temporary housing. So the idea that we can get 4 units reoccupied and maybe 7 units reoccupied, that's very good news for those residents. So thank you for that update, Ken.
You're welcome.
Township Committee comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
No comments tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Committeeman Hickey.
Decided not to mix it up tonight, Mayor, so I wasn't sure.
Okay, I was keeping.
I just want to say, now that we've finished the budget, I just want to recognize, Mayor, your leadership and the good work of my colleagues on the budget. As you recall, and I know we've mentioned before, but this started with last year's COVID budget relook, where we kind of, cinched up our Bedminster budget belts to the last notch, knowing that our residents and our businesses were really suffering. And while we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we know our friends and neighbors are not out of the woods yet, be it with health, their jobs, their income. So, I'm proud to say by adopting an essentially flat budget this year, we're doing our part to address an issue that oftentimes it gets ignored in New Jersey, but never here. I'm proud to say if taxes are your issue, then maybe Bedminster is your place. And as a resident, I thank you all. That's all I have to say, Mayor. Thank you.
I see what
Thank
you
you.
did there. I see what you did there.
Committeewoman Mareski.
Just looking forward to a good summer. Farmers Market, JVH, all the rec programs. It's going to be a good one.
Great. Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
I have no comments. Thank you, Mayor.
So I had 2 comments. One was going to be about the budget and that, a flat budget, essentially a 0% budget. So thank you all for your hard work in putting that together. And, to steal a phrase from Mayor Parker, we believe we had someone who flew solo tonight. Robin Ray. So we didn't have Judy on the line. We didn't have Judy sitting next to you or available by phone. So Robin, congratulations on your first meeting as acting town administrator until such time as you get that 105 and whatever extra credit you got. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
We do have an executive session tonight. We will not be taking any formal action after that executive session. So if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to stick around. We will come back to the Zoom session to do the final adjournment. But let's see, I guess we can go to, we need a separate breakout?
I do. Gina, I might need your help with this. I did set up a free breakout room just in case.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So while they're figuring that out, can we have a motion
Did you sign it?
I did.
to go to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.